Good evening. It's good to be with you. Tonight I couldn't help but chuckle as I thought about this text and about our situation in the world. The title that I've given to this message is Get Out. A little bit ironic, isn't it? When we hear everywhere we go, shelter in place, lock down, stay safe, stay in, don't go anywhere. And yet God is shouting from His Word in Isaiah chapter 48, get out. And so we're going to unpack that a little bit. If you were tracking with Pastor Steve when he read verse 20 in the NIV, which is kind of the standard text that we use, here's what it said. It said, leave Babylon and flee the Babylonians. But in most of the other versions I looked up, here's what it said. In the ESV and in the Amplified version, it said, get out, leave Babylon, flee. And in the Message, it actually says, run away as fast as you can. Even in the King James, it says this, go ye forth and flee. God really wants to get His people's attention, and He says, get out of that place. Well, we got to understand the context a little before we can make sense out of that. So let me reset the scene. In the year 587, almost 600 years before Jesus, Israel was destroyed. Their temple was desecrated. The monarchy was toppled. The land was picked apart. And the people were taken 700 miles from Jerusalem to Babylon. That's from here to El Paso and a little bit beyond. Think about that. That is a long ways away. And they felt stuck. They felt trapped. They felt imprisoned there. And yet, they kind of started to fit in. Have you ever felt that way? Kind of stuck and imprisoned, but yet somewhat comfortable? Maybe you're stuck in your homes, but it's a comfortable home. Maybe you're stuck in a job or without a job right now, and yet things aren't so rough that you're begging for some other situation. You're just kind of comfortable in your stuckness. God's word was pretty clear to the Israelites. Get out of this place. Babylon is not what you were created for. And yet, they had started to assimilate, to blend in. They found a great level of comfort. As a matter of fact, Babylon was kind of the political and economic, financial capital of the world at that time, and it was prospering. Why should we get up and go? It's easier just to stay here. Perhaps some of you remember the analogy of the frog in the kettle. That if you have a frog and you put it in a pot of hot water, the frog's just going to immediately jump out. He's going to know something isn't right. But if you put a frog into some cool water and gently start to turn up the heat, it just keeps swimming and swimming and swimming. And finally, it'll get to the boiling point and it will kill the frog. And the frog will never know what hit it because it just assimilates to the temperature of the water. That's exactly what was happening to the Israelites. They were becoming so comfortable in the boiling cauldron of Babylon that they didn't want to leave. So God says, get out, run away, flee this place. He doesn't just give them a bunch of bad news. He also reminds them of some of the things that He was promising to them. He promises them this in chapter 52, verse 1. He says, wake up, Israel. Clothe yourselves with my strength. Put on your garments of splendor, O Jerusalem. Those uncircumcised and defiled ones, they will not enter you again. In other words, He's saying, I will be with you, and I will protect you, and I will restore you to the place where I had you before. He says in chapter 52, verse 10, He says this, the Lord will lay bare His holy arm in the sight of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth will see the salvation of the mighty God. God is promising His people that He's not going to leave them there, and yet they aren't so sure that they want any part of it. God says, get out, and the response of Israel was crickets. They didn't respond. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so in chapter 48, which we did a bunch of reading from before, The word listen, if you go back and kind of work your way through the whole chapter 48 of the text, you'll see listening and ear and all of these words that have to do with that active verb of listening 11 times. The theme of chapter 48 is pay attention, listen, and here's what he's saying. Now listen to this. Get out. Go. Don't assimilate into this culture. This is not the culture of Yahweh, God's chosen people set apart, a peculiar people set apart for his purpose. No, what they were starting to do was to fall in line with a god named Marduk. And Marduk was more about pleasure. We'll just say it that way. It's an interesting thing. Our culture today has some of that, doesn't it? Where pleasure is worship. Now, I'm not saying anything is wrong with pleasure, because pleasure is good. But what happened in Babylon and what happens today many times is good things are turned into ultimate things. Things like a beverage, a drink, a gourmet meal, a sensuous kiss. All of these things are gifts from God. But when they start to turn into the ultimate things, they become idols. And God was saying to his people, you have taken good things, things that I have given, and you've made them idols. You think pleasure is the primary thing in life, and it's not. Pleasure is good, but it has its place. There are bigger fish to fry than that. It's an interesting thing. Sociologists about 15 years ago were studying young people in our culture, Christian young people as well as non-Christian young people, and they came up with this 3-word title that they kind of used to describe the beliefs of people in our culture today. And it was this: moralistic, therapeutic, deism. Moralistic, therapeutic, deism. Let me just talk about that just for a second. Moralistic, I'm a good person. I do good things. It's kind of karma related. If I do more good things than bad things, I'm kind of on the good side and the scale is tipped in my favor. I'm going to be a good person. Moralistic. Therapeutic. Yep, God's present in the world, and you know why God's present is so that he can make me happy. God pleases me. God makes me into a person who's at peace with himself. And that's the highest goal, isn't it? To be happy and at peace with yourself. And deism. Deism is the belief that there's a God and he created and he kind of ordered the universe, but then he kind of checked out. And he's really not active and present and alive in the world today. And that characterized the belief of young people. About 15 years ago, this phrase kind of came into vogue. I think it's very similar to what was happening back in Babylon. And God was saying to his people then, get out. He's saying to us today, get out. He's not saying go out and defy the local authorities and get closer than 6 feet to people and all that stuff. That's not what I mean by get out. I'm not talking about physically getting out. Oh yeah, that's if in safe ways do that. But what I'm talking about is realize the culture that around us, sometimes we're living in it and we don't even realize we've absorbed the values of it. And they're not always God-pleasing. Like I said, pleasure is created by God. He is the author of everything good, whatever is pure, whatever is right. Paul says, think about these things. But the scripture also tells us that life isn't always going to be pleasant and easy. God says he disciplines those he loves. Now, how many of you like discipline? Raise your hand. Yep. Nobody really likes discipline, but we endure it because it makes in us character. It forms the very likeness of God in us. And so we endure it. Nobody really chases after it. And what God is saying here to his people in Babylon, you got to get out of there or you're going to be like the frog in the kettle, and the water, when the temperature heats up, you're going to die, because you were created for more than what you think you're going to experience. You were created for a relationship that transcends this Babylonian God. You were set apart to be a peculiar people. And for this purpose, he's created the church. It's a fascinating thing what God is doing with us these days in the church. I think for many of us, and me included, sometimes we started to think of going to church as church, but it's not. I've seen the church on display this week in lots of ways that I hadn't seen when we would gather. I've seen all kinds of people calling one another and offering to lend a hand. I've seen people listening and praying together over the phone. I've seen lots of people texting each other and loving people more deeply because they're concerned for one another. Their concern has been, I wonder how she's doing today. I wonder how he's doing with not being able to get out to the store. I wonder if there's anything I could serve them by doing. The church is the people. And the Spirit of Jesus lives in the people of the church. The church is an amazing thing. And God is calling us to realize that. He's not calling us to get outside, and He's not calling us to get outside just of the people of the church. First and foremost, He's calling us to be sacred, peculiar people. And that means that we love one another deeply, and that love fills us up so much that it overflows to the people that are outside of us. So when I titled this sermon tonight, Get Out, it's not get out and disregard the public authorities. It's be filled up so that out of an overflow, you get outside yourself. See, that's what Jesus did. Jesus overflowed with the love of God, for God is love. And Jesus' love got outside of himself and stretched himself wide. And that's why we, as a Lenten people, come together and have these special services on Wednesday. It's to remember. It's to remember the passion that he loved you with. I'm going to encourage you guys to do something, and I will do it with you. Find one of the Gospels and go towards the end of it, depending on which one it is. But start with the betrayal and just read through the passion and read through the crucifixion and read through the death and burial. Then towards the end, right before Easter, we'll read about the most glorious part, the resurrection. I saw this on Facebook, and I kind of stole it, but I rewrote it because I didn't particularly like a few of the things that it nuanced. But here, let me share with you this little piece that I saw this week. It said, in 3 short months, just like he did with the plagues of Egypt, God has taken away so many of the things that we worship. God said, you want to worship athletes? Shut down the stadiums. You want to worship musicians? We'll shut down the civic centers. You want to worship actors? No more theaters. You want to worship money? We'll shut down the economy. Even the church is shut down, the buildings. But my people are not shut down. 2 Chronicles 7:14 says this, if my covenant people who are called by my name, Yahweh, if they will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their ways, then I will hear them from heaven, and I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. Part of what I think God is calling us to do is to get on our knees and thank him for the goodness that he has provided for us in Jesus. And to say, God, purify us, your people, humble us, discipline us, even though we don't necessarily like it when he does. Because it kind of hurts when you get disciplined. But it's good. He is good. Perhaps we need, the article went on, to take this time of isolation from the distractions of our usual world and have a renewed sense of love and concern, both within the church and in the community. Perhaps we need to bring the presence of Jesus, the very body of Christ, out to wherever he sends us. Maybe then the bride will point towards the groom and give him the honor that he is due, for he died and he rose that we might have life. My friends, get out. Enjoy the day that he's given you. I know there's deep concerns, I know, but he's bigger. He's calling us to worship him now.